Hello everyone and welcome to Heart Not Life Sailing. I hope you have your coffee ready because we are about to start our Sunday morning project. So we're going to turn this into this. Today we're going to be making a sunshade for our hardtop here. This is plexiglass windows. They're okay with ultraviolet light or sun, but they are not great. It's been about 6 or 8 months and you can already see a little bit of yellowing compared to the white paint, and that will continue to get worse, as well as the more UV damage it gets, the more you get that crackling kind of effect. It'll progressively get worse and worse and worse. For when we're at anchorage for a certain period of time, or for hurricane season, or just to keep the sun off if it's really hot that day, I'm gonna make a easy to remove sunshade. I've got this outdoor shading fabric here we bought in Santiago. First things first, I gotta mark the center of each one of these windows where the fabric I'm gonna be cutting will slightly overlap each other. I'll start by marking the center of each window frame, then another mark a ½ inch on either side where I'll cut the panels larger. That way there's a 1 inch overlap of fabric for sewing together.
Close your eyes, let thoughts unwind. In the groove you'll surely find a world of calm and endless dreams, where every tone and chord redeems.
Okay, so we're gonna mark these spots out here, and this is where we're going to be cutting the panels. Now for now, I'm not gonna cut this middle panel. I think I'm gonna do this in one piece, and then just 2 panels on the other ones. Top, and that's going back. This is the middle. Top number
1. Sunrise kisses the waves, seagulls sing their lullabies, salt breeze whispers soft hello, morning lights paint the sky. Oceano tranquilo, let's float on by. No worries, no hurry, just you and I. Dreams sail smoothly in the tide. In this tranquil life we glide. Footprints fading on wet sand, driftwood stories in my hand. Palms sway like they're saying, hey, this is where I want to stay. Oceano tranquilo, let's float on by. No worries, no hurry, just you and I. Dreams sail smoothly in the tide. In this tranquil life we glide. Footprints fading on wet sand, driftwood stories in my hand.
This is our last window we gotta do, so very little waste.
Saying, hey, this is where I want to stay. Oceano tranquilo, let's float on by. No worries, no hurry, just you and I. Dreams sail smoothly in the tide. In this tranquil life we glide. Stars wink at the ocean side.
Alright, the next stage to the this project is sewing all these panels together to make sure we have a nice shape going around the contour of that window. So these are ready to sew together now. One thing I want to point out is when I drew this out on our hardtop over the windows, I put the second set of dots where the other lines were. There's two sets of lines, so that's so that these will overlap each other. So when they overlap each other, the second dot here is where the other line is. So that's my 1/2 inch overlap. So by doing this, these will all line up with each other because these two dashes are the two dashes I put in the middle of the rails of the windows. So I just have to follow these together and sew on the lines now.
Dances in your eyes. Every wave a whispered tale. In this calm we'll eternally sail. Shells whisper secrets of the deep. Swinging hammocks where we sleep. Tides come in and tides will go, but our love will always flow.
Yes, but this is not a video on how to sew. This is just a video on how I'm making these sunshades. One thing I want to point out, and hopefully if anybody of you out there know what's going on, perhaps you can answer this for me, but the top fabric doesn't feed through at the exact same speed as the bottom fabric, even though this is a walking foot sewing machine, so it pulls the fabric from the top and the bottom. I start off with these lines lined up perfectly at the top, and I even have them pinned, but then as I start sewing it down, by the time I make it the 3 feet, this is a whole inch off here, and this lined up. I had to take the pins off because it was not lining up anymore, but this line was lined up with here, and I am not sure what's causing this. Even with a walking foot sewing machine, I'm still not getting the same tension, or it seems to be pulling more on either the top or the bottom as it's feeding through. Now it's not a big problem because I left extra fabric here, and I'm just going to be trimming this off after I get it somewhat tested out in place. This is not a how to sew video, this is just how I'm designing my sunshade. So that was my last panel, and now I'm gonna try this out and see how it lines up. And everything lines up perfectly, so I'm gonna go ahead now and double stitch all these seams following the next marker line here. Now you don't necessarily have these markers like I did, but that's what I could find that would actually leave a mark on this stuff. What I have here is some white Sunbrella fabric to reinforce the edges and seams. This way, when I install the twist lock connectors, there's some strength to those areas. My next step here is to make strips that are 2 inches wide, plus a 1/2 inch overlap or a hem. Conveniently, the ruler is 2 inches wide, so by centering it I can easily mark the hem lines. I'm going to be laying this ruler in the middle of each panel and drawing a line. What I'm going to do is iron this folded over like this onto my pencil line. I'm going to iron this so that when I sew it, it's going to be a lot easier because I'm going to be holding too many things at once. Little trim pieces cut and hemmed, or just with the yarn. I'm going to be sewing these over top of my seams here. So it's going to be like a nice little piece of canvas trim or Sunbrella trim.
Beyond the skies. Piano keys hit soft and sweet. Bass lines moving with subtle heat.
Alright, so that didn't work too well. I'm going to pull these stitches out. It keeps pulling itself more and more over. I'm going to have to draw a line, unfortunately, on here. A nice fine pencil line, just so I know where to line this up, because it's difficult seeing underneath what you're doing, and I've gone off center here. So round 2.
Let the music guide your heart. Every beat a brand new start.
Sewing all these panels in now. now one by one. I made them twice as long so I could just cut them in half off the long length of the fabric. Drew a line on one side so I have a reference of where to line this up, because freehanding it did not turn out well, and this seems to be working quite well. It's a very awkward position. I'm using my leg to hold up the extra fabric, and then the table until it gets to that handrail captures the off feed. But yeah, having a huge table to work on would definitely be a benefit. We're cutting here the fabric, so this is going to be for the ends. They're going to be larger panels because that's where most of the pole is going to be, like the stretch to have this a nice tight fit. So I'm making 6-inch panels, so it's 6 inches and 6 inches. I also put my pre-marks now for 1 inch in from each of the cut marks, so that when I fold it over, that's where I'm going to hem the edges. So I pre-marked those while the fabric's laying like this because it's nice and flat. And if I pre-draw those lines, there's a better chance the fabric hasn't twisted while I'm drawing the lines out. So now I'm gonna go ahead and draw them out, draw out the lines and get them cut and start hemming them. Stitching turned out pretty nice. I like how it looks on both sides. The knots are pulled inside the fabric, which is perfect. And I pulled this piece of plywood out, which really helped to extend my table, because these big rolls always hanging off the front of the table, and then as I'm pushing it by, it's getting caught on this ledge, making it difficult to do long runs. But this piece of plywood I just put up here extends it pretty far, and is really helping for these last 2 runs. So I'm just gonna continue now. I got the 2 ends done like this, and going to do a top and a bottom. I'm drawing a line 1 inch in, and then that's gonna be my fold line, where I'm gonna fold it and sew it to that line. And then once I do both sides and fold this over, that'll be my outer frame of this window covering. Alright, now that I have these pieces of trim folded and ironed, just keep their shape. I took the end here, laid it down over here, and marked off the angle following the bottom here. So what I did is I'm folding that inward, put a little notch in the fabric so it folds easily, folding that over and sewing it like this. This way when I put the end piece on here, it's going through a lot of fabric, so it's really going to reinforce this corner, because there's a bit of a gap right here because I had to extend this one just a little bit. So I'm going to do this on all 4 corners, and that's going to make the corners very strong for holding the fasteners that are going to hold this onto the hardtop, and then I'm going to go ahead and sew it like that. Or to match these up together, I just leave one a bit short and I fold the next one over so that there's no raw edge of fabric, and then I slip this over top of there, which sounds easy, but it takes a little bit of struggling because everything's so big, and I sew it on. I want to fold this section over to get extra reinforcement, so I'm just going to line up this outside edge of where I ironed this, put it in line with the cover. I draw this line here, and that will be my folding shape. I'm going to cut this fold until just before there. Get a pin here. And I'm going to cut off this extra, and then I can cut it off just a little bit proud, and then I can put that back inside. By proud, I mean leaving this edge here. I'm going to cut leaving some. And now I can fold this in. And that's how my finished piece will look now. When I sew that, there'll be no exposed edges. And this will fit over top of here and sew her all together. Let's get started. So I want to get it as centered as possible, probably using these as a guide. And then once we have it pulled as tight as possible with it centered on here, the strip, we're going to mark the top, which should be pretty close to this. And we're going to mark how far back it is. That way I can triangulate the corner. Okay?
There?
As possible. Okay, so you're at the caulking line. Okay, go just a little bit faster. So now I just mark the center of the twist lock, then mark the holes to be drilled, and now drill the pilot holes with the depth marked with a bit of tape so not to go too deep. Just screw that in. I'm gonna get them both started. So there's my first one. Now, a lot of people use a special punch to install these. I do not have that special punch. I'm going to try to just cut through this, or else I'm going to make up a hot knife for it. Alright, let's see what I can do. I think this will work. Alright, a lot of layers there, but it worked. And now these is how they look. Hopefully go right through all of this, through to the other side. There we go. Now we put this stainless steel plate over top of it. Now we're gonna punch all of these eyes inward. Just gonna do them a little bit at a time. Take a torch to some of that stuff so nothing frays on me. So I'm going to use this drill bit. It's a little dirty, but it's on there, and that locks on. I got it a little bit dirty, but that's all right. I'm gonna move on to the other side. That's how she's gonna look. I'm really happy with it. I just got to put more of these little twist lock fasteners on here. This is good for tonight though. It's sun setting, and it's gonna be difficult to do this in the dark, so I'm gonna carry on here tomorrow and get this buckled down. But you can see how great that looks from the inside. I'm not sure if you can see that, but you can still just kind of see through it. You'll be able to see a little bit of outside, like I can see the boats over there. Can you see that? There you go. So this will prevent us a lot of shade. Now that I have the sunshade held up by the two top corners, I'll mark where all the rings will go. Tarp off, gets a lot easier to work off of the hardtop or off of the windows. And I'm going to continue to make these buttons or install these buttons, but this way I can do it inside, out of the wind. I don't have the die press for it, or the die stamp, or whatever you want to call that, where you just bang it, it cuts the hole out like a hole cutter that's a die. I'm going to use a chisel and a knife, and I'll just be able to do it in the comforts of the cockpit this way. Now this is held on there very well. I just have to trim off some threads. This is how the twist locks work. Just turn the dial and it pulls off. Press on and turn the dial and it locks in place. This has the wind against it, so it's not under any stress to get pulled off. When you're on anchor, you don't have the wind behind you. This is the view from the inside, and you can still see partially through it. We can see the boats around us, and it gives us an incredible shade. It's already so much darker inside here. Much more comfortable. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was fun making this. I think just about anybody can do this if you have a sewing machine that can handle the workload. The materials were not very expensive, and it took me about, say, a day and a half. Had to take a couple breaks. It was about a day and a half's worth of work, and this project was done. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to tell your friends, and we'll see you next Sunday. Grab your coffee, turn on our show, and we'll see you then. Thanks. Don't forget to subscribe. Have a good day.
Moonlight spilling through the